Miso Santoku knife review. I'm Urvashi, and today I'm going to walk you through this knife that Miso actually sent to me and talk to you about how to choose a good knife. Okay, they sent me this knife. If I don't like something, I don't review it. So if I'm reviewing it, I like it. The first thing I want to do is confess my bias, which is that I am through and through a Shun knife girl. When my husband first bought the Shun knives 11 years ago, I had a heart attack at how expensive they were. But, you know, he was cooking for us, he was doing a good job, I let him keep them. And realistically, once I bought those knives, I stopped looking for every other knife. I cannot tell you how much money I had wasted looking for knives and knives and knives and just not finding what I wanted. So, buying a good knife can make all the difference between really enjoying what you're doing and not enjoying what you're doing. Now, there are Western style knives and there are Japanese style knives. Okay, traditionally Western style knives are sharpened on both sides and they have not as much of an angle, not as much of a bevel. So they'll be like 20-degree bevel angle. Japanese knives are typically sharpened on one side and they have a steeper angle, making this edge a little bit thinner and therefore easier to cut. Miso, which I think is how you pronounce it, I actually don't know. They said it was from Mise en Place, so I'm assuming it's Miso. If I've mispronounced their name, they're gonna hate me, but hopefully you wouldn't. Anyway, these guys have taken the best of both and they've combined some of the features of Western knives and some of the features of Japanese knives. Now here's a big misunderstanding in my mind. People judge a knife on how well it cuts. And actually that is not how sharp it is not a good way to decide. You can always sharpen a knife. Your best knives are going to get dull, and in fact we're going to do a separate video on different ways to sharpen your knives. So that isn't really the issue. There are a whole bunch of other issues that I'm going to walk you through. So let me put my Shuns aside, but the one thing I do want to show you is this is the Miso Santoku knife. This one is the Shun one. It's got these little depressions in it, which makes it easier for food to slide off, I think. And then this one is a chef's knife. So the difference in shape, let me just show you the difference between these two. You see how this has a curved edge? This allows you to hold this and rock the knife back and forth like this when you're cutting. So you know all those chefy shows you watch on TV where these classically trained chefs are doing this massive chop, which by the way, I'm not a classically trained chef. I cook like you do probably. A chef's knife is really good for that. It's a really good all-purpose knife. In contrast with the Santoku, it's got a straight edge. So you're gonna have to lift each time. So if you're looking for precise cuts, precise thin cuts, a Santoku is a really good one to use. Okay, let's talk about the features that in my mind make a good knife. Part of it is material. This one is made as every knife, every good knife is made out of some combination of carbon steel and stainless steel. And the percentages of those vary. One keeps it from rusting, the other one helps it keep a sharp edge. There are a variety of reasons. This one is made from AUS 10, which is a grade of stainless steel that's really good. When you're looking at a knife, you want to see how it fits in your hand. And a couple of things are going to make a difference. A well-balanced knife will fit better in your hand than one that's not well-balanced. If it's not, it's kind of like a car that's out of alignment. You know how you have to keep shifting the wheel? If your knife isn't well-balanced, that's essentially what you're doing, is you're compensating for the lack of proper engineering in the knife. This one is a very well-done knife. The other thing you're looking for is something called tang. See how this knife is a piece of metal that goes all the way in, and up top here you can still see the metal. This is a full tang knife. That means this stainless steel goes all the way through and the handle is around it. This makes it more durable. If you've ever had a knife break as you were trying to chop something, chances are very, very good that it was a partial tang, that this metal only went halfway through and it wasn't as sturdy. So look at the full tang versus partial tang. These rivets make a difference. The rivets really need to be flat. They're what's holding the handle and the tang together. But if they pop up at all, there's going to be food trapped in it and you absolutely don't want that. The material of the handle is going to make a difference. If they've got cheap plasticky handles, you put it near the stove, it's going to melt. The Shuns use some wood. I don't know, this does not strike me as wood, the Miso one, but it strikes me as a very easy to clean, durable material. The other thing you're going to care about in a Santoku or anything else is when you need real precision, you want to be able to put your hand here, or in a chef's knife, you want to be able to put your hand here. So not only is this edge not sharp, it needs to be a thick enough edge where you can rest your hand comfortably. When you do this, you get a lot more control over your cuts than if your hand was here. Okay, it's just a leverage issue. The closer you are to the tip of it, the closer you're going to get it. So this has a nice little D shape here where you can put your hand and cut, and that will be a really, really good thing. Now let's talk about price. This knife is half the price of a Shun. And this is really actually why I wrote to them and asked if I could review it. They don't have an affiliate program. It's not something I can really benefit from in that sense. But not everybody wants to spend the money on a Shun. I did it because my husband bought him. He's a machine person. He's a tools person. He was particular about his tools. And then I fell in love with them, and so we bought a whole bunch more. But I mean, I food blog for a living. I've written 9 cookbooks that you should check out, by the way. They're all under my name on Amazon. So, the kind of knife that I might be willing to invest in may or may not be something you want to invest in. This one, when I looked online, was somewhere between $60 and $75 versus the Shun that's $150. I know it sounds insane to spend $150 on a knife, but let me tell you, we've had this for 11 years. They've seen me through everything. All they need is a sharpening and they work. This knife is going to be the same. I can see how it's going to hold an edge very well. The material is solid, yet the knife is well balanced and feels very, very good in your hand. And I don't even want to show you how it cuts, but I'm going to show you because everybody expects you to see how a knife cuts. Guys, it's a knife. They're not selling a $75 knife that can't cut. It is actually the smoothest cut. And part of it is the knife is new, right? But look at the cuts. And actually I'm making really thick ones here, but you could make a very, very thin cut. And actually if Roger was doing this, my husband, he would make even thinner cuts. He would probably make them see-through. So obviously it cuts really well, but that's not a good enough criteria. It's everything else. It's the full tang, it's the rivets. Oh, you gonna show us?
I'm the husband.
Yeah,
I'm the one that bought all the
Shun knives.
Yes. And I'm going to squat down so you can see my head. This is what I kind of liked about this knife, and it's going to screw up because I'm messing with it now. But this knife is pretty nice. For it to do that, it has to be quite sharp. I mean, this just keeps going. Whoops. I hate it when it screws up.
I think you might be getting too small on there. There we go.
Probably enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you have a lot of paper to cut, this is a great knife for it.
Not helping. So anyway, it's pretty sharp, but like I said, any knife, if it's good quality material, can be sharpened. Now let me tell you something else that really doesn't have to do with knives, but that has more to do with your cutting board. So this is a really banged up cutting board, and Roger was not happy about me putting this on here, but this is the one that I use the most. It's terrible in terms of how much stain it takes, but it's a soft bamboo wood. If you are gonna spend $75 on a knife, please do not cut on anything that is glass. The glass will dull your edge on the knife, which Roger used to yell at me every single time I did it until I realized the reason why. It's gonna dull your knife. Don't cut on stone. You need to cut on something that is slightly soft and makes a slight snicking sound when you cut. It's also a very satisfying sound. People keep asking me to make ASMR videos, and I don't because whatever. But that sound is actually extremely satisfying. This is actually not a bamboo one. I misspoke. This is a maple board, which makes it soft. And let me see if you can hear the snick. Yeah, that sound is very different from cutting on glass. I try not to cut on the counter directly as well, and definitely do not cut into a ceramic plate. You'll break the plate, you'll dull your knife. So if you're gonna spend money on a good knife, make sure that the cutting board is commensurate. It doesn't need to be expensive. This one I think maybe was $20 or $30, but buy a good one. So back to this, would I buy it? I absolutely would. Here's why. It's a great knife. It's really good quality. It comes out of the box sharp. You can sharpen it. It's a full tang knife. It's very well weighted, and the rivets go straight down, and it's half the price of the other comparable knives. So I'm Urvashi. I hope this was helpful. Subscribe to the blog, and I'll see you next time.